Hey again, everyone. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. How will the Buckeyes look today? How will the Bulldogs look today? How will about 25 or 30 teams across America look today? We will do our best to track it and talk it with you for the next number of hours. We are definitely taking in the Ohio State spring game. So welcome in, main channel audience. Welcome in, Buckeye channel audience. We hope that you know that we've got an Ohio State live show that we deliver each and every Wednesday. Wednesday, typically 11 a.m. Eastern time, but we've got 4 schedules to coordinate. Therefore, we sometimes have to switch it up. That's why it's important for you to subscribe and hit the bell for the notifications. Yes, so the Ohio State spring game, and I cannot imagine a more beautiful day. Maybe for those of you who consider this not to necessarily be football weather, it might be a little toasty. I know that it reached about 90 degrees yesterday in the Columbus, Ohio area. And there at the shoe, you've got Joshua Perry in the booth and ready to broadcast the spring game. So we are ready to watch it and watch it with all of you. I know that Boston College kicked off at 11 a.m. Eastern time. I understand that probably not a whole lot of you are concerned with the Boston College Eagles. However, we are the voice of college football, and if we are able to get to any of that, we will. But we're locked in on the Buckeyes for the next couple hours. And keep in mind that we've got the phone lines open, and I will get the link to you so we can talk Ohio State football and talk all of college football. This is not just Ohio State, talk all of college football with you for the next few hours. And then we will figure out the rest of the day because there are spring games everywhere. This is the biggest of the spring day games. This is the biggest of the spring days, let's say, spring game days in regards to all of college football. We will run them down a little bit later, but all sorts of teams in action today, and we will size it up. In particular, in the Big Ten, I know Michigan State and Penn State are on the docket for 2 p.m. Eastern time. We will take your comments and questions. Also, I will get you the link and you can call in and we'll talk Ohio State football. And again, all of college football is on the board. Bring your folks in, family, friends, people you don't even know on social media. Let them know we're talking Buckeyes and we're talking college football. Let's see how this secondary looks. We're getting a shot right now of Denzel Burke and also Davison Ignosin, the Ole Miss cornerback transfer. And certainly we want to track his work. He is coming into his junior season from Ole Miss. Again, much expected of him, as well as Jihad Carter at safety, the Syracuse transfer. So we're coming up on some spring football from the shoe. We had a fun time last night during the Miami spring game. We will do the same today with the Buckeyes. All right, let's run down the comments while we're in commercial break here. Justin, appreciate you being here. Anyone get a free stream to the game? I don't know. We've got Travis, and we've got Michigan. Ed, good to see you. Daniel's here. Good to see you, of course. Jason, Michigan fan, but still here. Know the enemy. That's the lesson to be learned today. Know your enemy. Also, keep in mind that there's Michigan State softball coming up on Tuesday night. If the Big Ten Network's going to deliver the game for us, I guess I'll give them a free plug there. Although you would much rather be watching our Iowa and Nebraska live streams at that point. Manimal, good to see you. Daniel says, damn, so not 100,000 at the shoe today. Yeah, the weather's phenomenal. I don't believe that there's going to be any issue with weather. I don't know what they were projecting there. You might have gotten that from the Big Ten Network. Obviously, does it matter? Wingman Ted, I feel like the defense is going to win the day. especially with the weak offensive line this year. Weak offensive line or offensive line with concerns, question marks, and uncertainty? I'll go with the latter. It's going to have to be a different program at a different time, and I don't know when that's going to be for me to say in April that Ohio State's got a weak offensive line, especially when they had a strong offensive line last year, and much of it's back. And I know that they've lost 3 tremendous contributors to that offensive line. Some of the more talented players that they've seen when you look at Paris Johnson and DeJuan Jones in particular, and of course, the departure of the center, Whippler, was not expected. But there are concerns. There's work to be done. There are question marks. There are question marks not just about the ability, or not necessarily the ability, but the development aspect of it, but putting the right people in the right place, because that's always a tricky deal at the offensive line position, is to mix and match and find the right combination or combinations. Weak offensive line, though, let's save that one. I will be surprised if Ohio State doesn't have one of the 10 to 15 best offensive lines in the country. Ed coming in strong early. Ed not waiting to like deep into the third quarter on this one. Michigan is Ohio's trash dump. Yes, we are on the Big Ten channel here, the Big Ten Network. And yes, Frank is concerned about the offensive line. Jason, that's forecast does not surprise me for Michigan State looking as bad as Florida. Florida's offense. Now, I didn't watch the Florida game. We hit it on here. I got to say, I got so bored and I didn't watch it. And we were talking to all of you. And so I didn't necessarily lock in on the Florida game. I saw the ugly score. I saw 10 or 15 plays. So there's bad offense and there's good defense. I don't know what the mix was there. But the Buckeyes ready to kick off here. And again, we're giving you a full day of spring football here at the Voice of College Football. And we've got a kick through the end zone. We've got the scarlet and we've got the gray. And we've got Kyle McCord on the field first. Started that one game against Akron, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks in his career. He has thrown 58 passes. So he's been on a collegiate field enough to throw 58 passes in garbage time. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate you being here, Frank. Thank you for that. Spread the word. Michigan Rick's here. Michigan Rick, good to see you. All right, let's get to the ball game here, or the scrimmage, or the practice. Jackson's checking in. Buckeyes with a single setback, and that was not a poorly thrown ball. Well, it could have been a poorly thrown ball. I think he was just throwing it away because Marvin Harrison Jr. was just blanketed on that one. So Denzel Burke, it's a good little start for him. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but he was there and he completely overplayed that. And if that ball is thrown on target, it's picked off. So we're not tackling. I see that. Mayan Williams comes up the middle. And as soon as there's some type of forceful contact, not in a football way, what you and I would consider forceful contact, like if you're walking down the street and, you know, it looks like somebody's going to fall and you catch them, or you run into somebody pretty hard. That's like the type of contact we're going to see today. So this is not even football forceful contact. This is everyday forcible contact. So 3 yards from Mayan Williams. All right, so nobody's open again. So kind of difficult to judge Kyle McCord on the first 2 passes because just nobody open, and he almost threw a pick there. He was trying to squeeze it in. Not necessarily the best decision in the world, as I don't know, he wasn't seeing. Who is that? Number 11 breaking off the ball. I still have not learned. That's CJ Hicks. CJ Hicks breaking off the ball. Got to know CJ Hicks, of course, and I do, but I used to be pretty amazing when it came to names and numbers, putting those together, but I've not run down anybody's rosters. That's what I should be doing in my spare time to ready myself for the season. But we will get we will hit the books here soon, because we're going to bring you power rankings and all sorts of good stuff. All right, well, 3 and out for the defense. So we got 3 points on the board for the Gray, and we got Tristan Gebbia in the game, the former Nebraska quarterback, former Oregon State Beaver. Wingman Ted, there you go, inexperienced offensive line for the most part. Okay, well, Gebbia, this guy wants to be a coach, and this is one of the reasons he came to Ohio State, not to get playing time, but to be an emergency backup. Although, again, we got to remember Devin Brown, finger injury, and will have surgery. So there we actually had a tackle. So the Dallin Hayden coming up the middle on that one, and he broke a tackle in the backfield. So I thought they were going to call the contact there, but not well played there. You got to get that tackle in the backfield. Oh, that was Reed Carrico. All right, back to pass looking left, and a good throw out there by Tristan Gebbia. Kyon Graves making an appearance. And nice little hookup on the left side there. Perfect pass and pocket and catch. And out to the 35. Dallin Hayden with the reception. Good to see him get involved in the passing game. He takes it out there for 4 or 5 yards. Michael Campbell has extensive film from practice, apparently, says the offensive line. Doomsday. Second and 5. So nothing there for Dallin Hayden. Connor! We enjoy you being here, Connor. Thank you so much for that. Connor, hard at work, but taking a break and chooses to watch the voice of college football. Thank you, man. We got Tristan Gebbia on the field. Did you see that, Connor? Did you hear us talk about that? So we got one of your old buddies on the field. Dallin Hayden slips through for a couple yards, but defensive line winning the running back. So we've had about Reed Carrico again. This time he didn't let the tackle slip. And we got a 4th and 2 now. Fourth and 2, and that's going to be a stop. So we're going to see some points go on the board for the Scarlet. I got to think that's a 3-pointer for the Scarlet with the stop on defense. So not a good start in the running game for the offensive line. They passed blocked well on a couple of occasions there. What are we doing here? I thought they just got stopped. Okay, now it's 4-0. They got a first down on that? I didn't see 2 yards there. And Gebbia So he had him to the middle of the field and he threw it to the outside. Hey, Javon, how you doing, man? Good to see you here. Ferris on the line with us. Good to see Ferris and the Rod Farva, of course. Chip Trainum getting some time out there. Our buddy Alex, who calls the show on a regular basis to talk running backs, will be pleased. Jebbia delivers again, but this time, well, that was a catch, but it should have been caught the first time. But he did haul it in, kept his concentration. Antwi, not familiar with him. So we're missing Emeka Buka, and we're missing Julian Fleming. So let's watch this play, and then we'll take our first call. And we've got to throw out to the outside, and I think we get a miscommunication. Our guy, Ballard Sports Media, Christian, stopping by. Hey, Christian, how you doing?
I'm good, Mark. How are you, man?
I am doing just fine. Appreciate you stopping in. What's going on today?
Not much. I'm excited for some spring games. I think I'm going to try to go live on my channel for the Clemson one, but one that I tuned into just now was Boston College, and looks like a really good team. But this is what gets me is I know that each spring game for each team has their own rules. They got points off of a tackle or a fumble recovery. I wanted to basically come on here and just point out, like, I just think the way in which they're scoring in spring games is kind of odd. And I just wanted your thoughts on that. Because, I think it was like 2 points just for picking up a fumble or something that I just saw. So, what's your thoughts on spring games having their own rules and regulations?
Well, I think they're giving incentive to the defense to make plays, and they're also trying to give credit to the defense. So if we just played by regular football scoring, then of course the offense has far more opportunity to score, like 90% of the points in a typical football game. So the defense can obviously impact the game just like a regular football game by stopping the offense, but I think they want to credit the defense for making plays.
Yeah. It's it's halftime and the score is 43-33 at half.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool to see that, but at the same time it's just I don't know. There's a part of me that wishes it was more like a regular season game or something.
Well, the way I think this originated was there would be some teams that would split into offense and defense. So the whole one team was offense and the whole other team was defense. And they just always played different first, second, third teams on defense against first, second, third team offenses. And they needed a way to figure out, obviously that's not fair from a scoring standpoint. So you need to figure out, okay, what's valuable for the defense to do that's going to be fair in terms of them accumulating points. And so people have come up with various point systems to give credit to the defense. So
makes sense
I have
to
no
me.
issue with it.
What's that?
I have no issue with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really, I just kind of think it's odd. I don't necessarily have any issues with it, but it makes sense to me the way you just explained it. So,
yeah, that's the first time I remember seeing it years and years ago that for whatever reason, a particular head coach, I don't remember who it was, decided we're going to do the entire spring game offense versus defense. And so if you do that, obviously the defense has very little chance of win. They have almost no chance of winning the game. So you got to give them incentive and give them ways to score points. I don't consider this a football game, so I'm okay with it. It's fine. It's fun. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, one game I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, and they have it set up actually like Alabama has theirs normally set up. But Clemson takes the field today, orange versus white. And I think I'm probably going to stream that and react to it. So that could be a good game. I'm interested in seeing Clemson's quarterbacks. And then one guy on defense I hope to see some of. I actually got to meet this player. I went to his recruitment at Thompson High School, but Peter Woods, I don't know if you're too familiar with him.
Absolutely. I am. He's probably going to be the guy. Well, he's definitely the guy that's considered the freshman that's going to have the most impact on Clemson. Yeah. We do a Clemson record with Jason Priester
Mm-hmm.
every week, and we've talked a lot of Peter Woods. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks for letting me on, and you enjoy the rest of the spring games today.
Thank you, Christian. Have a good live stream
Thank
later
you.
today.
Awesome.
So we have left the link in the chat if you want to give us a call. Otherwise, we will just follow along here as we've got the Scarlet on offense, trailing 5-0. And back to Kyle McCord, who's really not been able to show much yet. He's being rushed and delivers maybe his first completion. I don't know. I've missed a couple plays here, but Marvin Harrison, I don't know what the deal is here. So I'm a bit confused by the tackling procedures here, because we've seen a couple guys get tackled. There we see Marvin Harrison, and we see, hey, we're just going to tap him. So I don't know how the defense is supposed to know that, because he's got no special jersey on like the quarterback, I would think, based on what we just saw. We just saw him get tapped down, and he has a scarlet jersey on. So anyway, Kyle McCord's in the pocket, and he delivers a nice throw there to Marvin Harrison once again, who I would love to see the replay on that, because I don't know what the coverage was for him to get that wide open. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah, they were playing a zone, and that was way too easy. Way too easy. So that's a play, and we always have this debate. Did the offense really look good on that particular play, or did the defense look that bad? Well, the defense looked that bad on that play. That should have been a connection there. That should be second nature between these two when we look at McCord and Cade Stover on that one. So that was not a well thrown ball. So Kyle McCord not looking the best thus far, but let's not go crazy. So Kyle McCord on that one couldn't get the ball out in the flat to Mayan Williams. 3rd and 10. One practice. This is one session out of 15, everyone. Double X Buckets for life. Look at this. On his way to East Lansing to check out Sparty. Okay. Have a good time. Report back. McCord on a 3rd down, and that was really strong coverage. Had a Denzel Burke again on Carnell Tate. So Denzel Burke right now is he might have been a little bit early. He was a little bit early. It was really good coverage. That probably doesn't get called most of the time, but that does get called sometimes. And we got a field goal coming up here, 40-yard attempt, and missed. So we still have a 5-0 game as he pushed it. That was Jaden Fielding. All right. Michael, you know we love you. And we know that the Ohio State offensive line has question marks. but I do find it amusing coming from a fan base and considering the levels of the two play by the two teams in the last 20 years. Until we see differently, there's not much of a comparison between the two programs right now. We shall see. Chip Trayanum, of course, we got to see him against Michigan. That was kind of a surprise move by the Buckeyes. I think he had 17 carries in that game, and he looked really good, but he doesn't need to be your feature back. Jebbia to the outside. All right. We got a 1st and 10. We got Chip back through the middle here. Nice gain. Broke some tackles. Pushed some guys around. Connor Johnson letting us know that Jebbia would have been the starter last year had he not had a horrific injury against the Oregon Ducks in 21. I know he was the starter, and he just got sacked. Little touch sack there. I doubt if that would have been a sack in a real game. Kenyatta Jackson, he's going to be counted on this year. Daniel is telling us that Reed Carrico needs to hit the weight room. Jebbia gets to the outside. Who else is in here? Felipe, good to see you. Connor back with, I think it was just assumed he was going there to learn from the coaches, but he'll compete. Yeah, maybe you're right, Connor. Nobody is giving this guy any opportunity to start with the other two quarterbacks in play. So that has not been talked about at all in terms of Tristan Jebbia being a legit possibility here. But based on a very limited sample size right here, he's throwing the ball better than Kyle McCord. But again, that's a extremely limited sample size. Jebbia is moving the offense. 1st and 10, 3 minutes left in the first quarter. And nice little design play, but it wasn't blocked. So Michael Campbell's going to jump on that one because that was a poor running play from an offensive line standpoint. Understand what they were trying to do. They had the 2 H-backs on the left side, and they both slanted and blocked right. They blocked down, and they should have had a nice little wall formed for Chip Trayanum, but nothing. Lost a yard. Okay, well-blocked play by the offensive line there. Yeah, David, this defensive line, should be phenomenal. They should be really good. They should be as good as any defensive line in the country. They should be. Michael, we are going to have so much fun the week of the Ohio State Notre Dame game. We are going to have so much fun. Hopefully, Notre Dame can make it to that game without 2 losses. Is Marshall on the schedule this year? And the Stanford game, I'm guessing, is later in the season, right? Colby, is Notre Dame still too scared to join a conference? Well, the powers that be of college football, which there is no powers that be, would be nice if they did form to force that move. So Jebbia, little short completion there. And they don't convert the 3rd down, so we got a 4th and 2 field goal. They hit that one from 38 yards. So the miss by Fielding, and this here was number 23. I'll have to look him up. Ryan Day said something about 75,000 people there. I don't think there's anywhere close to 75,000 people there. So we've got some little ceremony happening right now that involves Marvin Harrison Jr. Did he win some kind of an award? Well, he probably should have won the Bolitnikoff. Who won the Bolitnikoff last year? Who won the Bolitnikoff? I know that he didn't win it, but I can't remember who won it. That can be easily looked up. Jalen Hyatt. Thank you, David. Tennessee wideout. "77 catches, 1263 through the air, 14 touchdowns. There might have been one throw. I can remember one slant against Michigan that he dropped. That would have been nice because it would have converted a 3rd down and kept the drive alive. And I think he might have had one of those against Georgia too, but definitely against Michigan. I can picture it going from right to left. How many of you degenerates have rewatched Ohio State, Michigan? I rewatched maybe a quarter. I always think about all the games I would like to rewatch from last season, but never get to it. Cody Simon, of course, is going to be relied upon heavily. So we've got Arkansas getting started here soon, 1 o'clock, and Clemson at 1 as well. That's an ACC Network Plus game. So I have contacted everyone that we have a relationship with that has a spring game today to see if we can do some kind of hit with them sometime today. So we're a quarter into this one at the shoe, and we've got a 7-3 score by unconventional means. But in addition to the Buckeyes at noon, Cincinnati at noon, Arkansas and Clemson at 1 Eastern, Georgia Tech at 1, Mississippi State at 1, Pitt at 1. Later today, Michigan State Penn State both play at 2 p.m. Eastern time. The Penn State game on BTN, Michigan State BTN Plus later in the day. Texas, Virginia both kick off at 2, as well as Wake Forest and Tennessee at 2:30 Eastern. Tennessee, I believe, doing more of a Florida State type of deal where they're not necessarily playing a game, just a lot of scenarios. Arizona State, Ole Miss, USC at 3 Eastern. So they're playing out at noon out there in Los Angeles, which, of course, that's going to be covered by the Big Ten Network at this time next year. Virginia Tech at 3 on the ACC digital platform. Florida State, the same thing at 4 Eastern. So I'm going to do my best to do some level of recaps. And again, I'm not going to recap what happened necessarily just on the field. It's going to be more of a forward-thinking recap, because I've certainly learned through the years that for me to recap a spring game that was played 6 hours ago is just dumb and pointless. But to basically say, if I take in the broadcast and then just kind of take in the broadcast and then kind of put that together with, personnel gains, personnel losses, and do a little bit of a season preview. Buckeye fans, you may want to stay tuned. 2 p.m. Eastern. It's Penn State. Oh, Justin getting a dig in there. Brian Day saying they'd score 100 on Michigan was a 4-year plan. Yeah, nobody really pinned him down on that one. Antoine, in the immortal words of Donovan, which one, Mark? That must have been a while ago. Paris Johnson preparing for the NFL draft. He's on the sideline, All-American, just a phenomenal talent. And he will make a lot of money here soon. We had a sack on the quarterback. Cue Michael Campbell on another offensive line dig. Tyleik Williams with a sack. He's feeling good about that. Sage Ohio's checking in. Good to see you as well. Gregory Stewart, good to see you. That's what most of us think, Ferris, that Penn State is going to be pretty legit this year. Brano 2 times predicting 3 losses for the Buckeyes this year. Could happen. I highly doubt it, but it's on the table. Shoot, Michigan could lose 3 games this year. Troy V, in all fairness to Ryan Day, that hang 100 was for 2020 when Michigan ran and hid with their tails between their knees. We'll never know if they would have, because the meat chickens wimped out. Well, of course, nobody's scoring 100 points in a college football game, especially against a talented Power 5 foe. But yeah, Troy, was Ohio State a much better team? Of course they were. 13-3 Gray. They played 15 in the first quarter. They're only playing 12 minutes in the second. Good defense there. Matthews broke on the ball well. for the PBU. 3rd and 10. Third and 10 at the 21. No one in the backfield. McCord, show us something. Throws it short. Okay, what is that? What is that? What's going on there? Okay. Unless you're pretending we're setting up a scenario and we're not actually at the 21-yard line. So we're going to go for it on 4th down. So let's get 5 or 6. Then we're going to go for it on 4th down because we're not doing that at the 21-yard line in a regular game. If they're doing that, if that's what the thinking is, fine. But if they are truly, and they're punting now. So does anybody else catch the idiocy of the last play? They just threw a 4-yard pass, which again, there are 4-yard passes and then there are 4-yard passes. 4-yard passes when the guy's in the clear or it's a crossing route and he's got a chance to make a move or cut up field. Yes, but a 4-yard pass when there are 2 defenders right there in the flat, that was just, don't want to make too much out of one play, but 3rd and 10, and they throw a ball for 4 yards in the flat on a pass pattern that's not designed for the receiver of the football to catch and run. I think we had a question coming in from Colby on Florida. Colby says, what do you think about Napier at Florida, Mark? Does he get fired after this year? Well, I don't know. What's his record going to be this year? I don't know if he's going to get fired. I'm not projecting Florida to have much of a season. I haven't made any predictions, and will not make any predictions until August, but Florida does not. And I'm not even counting what we saw the other night. Florida's not a good SEC team. They were playing in another conference. They were playing in the ACC. Then their prospects would be different. But in that conference against that schedule, considering that they've got a trip to Utah and Florida State's on this non-conference schedule, it could be ugly for Florida. And yeah, there's a possibility that if they go 4-8, that he is done. I can see Florida not tolerating and not giving another chance to a 4-8 coach after a 6-7 season. So yeah, that's a possibility. That is not out of the realm of possibility. I'm not going to say it's likely, but I'm not going to say it's. I would say that if Billy Napier goes to a bowl game, he's safe. If he goes 5-7 or worse, then he's in trouble. And they will make an evaluation to see whether he's got one more year to turn it around or we've seen enough, he's done. And recruiting is going to have a lot to do with that as well. Ferris says Kyle McCord equals Cade McNamara. Well, I would say at this stage of the game, actually, Cade McNamara is better than Kyle McCord. Hang on. Based on what he's proven on the field in regulation games in Big Ten play. However, the recruiting rankings would tell us that Kyle McCord is a much more talented player and therefore has a higher ceiling. If somebody asked me today, you've got a team and you need a starting quarterback, you have no other options, we're only giving you this option, Kyle McCord or Cade McNamara. If I was trying to win a championship, I would say, well, give me Kyle McCord and I'll take my chances. If you were saying, You need to win 7 games. You need to go 7-5 to keep your job. I'd say give me Cade McNamara. So there's a ceiling floor aspect to that statement. Antoine says, stop talking about recruiting. How about talking about actual field play and actual experience rankings are nothing but projections. They don't have to play out. Of course, they don't have to play out. Antoine, kind of difficult to talk about a player who's not played. So you're asking me to talk about a player who hasn't played. So his name's Kyle McCord. He hasn't played. He's not thrown one pass in college football that's been meaningful. Okay. The same could have been said at this point 2 years ago about CJ Stroud, and could have been said 2 years earlier about Justin Fields, and could have been said, except for in this particular player's case, he threw a couple passes that were extremely meaningful against Michigan. Could have been said about Dwayne Haskins in 2018. So I get your point, but let's understand that if Kyle McCord played for Rutgers and we knew nothing different about him, how much different would the reasonable outlook be for him? It would be much different, even if he was exactly the same player, because there's no comparison between the resources around him. And there's no comparison between the track record that's been established at this school in churning out 4,000-yard passers. So that doesn't mean what Justin Fields accomplished and CJ Stroud and Dwayne Haskins and JT Barrett and all these other guys doesn't impact Kyle McCord directly. That doesn't guarantee Right, folks, we hope you're still with us. I think we lost about 20 people there, and I understand why. We tried to get the internet back as quickly as possible, just vanished out of me. Gray 23, Scarlet 3. Okay, I don't know if my point was picked up here in response to Antoine. My point was that with Kyle McCord, and again, I apologize if I made this point and everybody heard it, but I don't know what was heard and what was not, is that we can't evaluate a player who's not played. So Kyle McCord has thrown 58 passes that were meaningless. And otherwise, so we can evaluate his ability to throw the ball. But in terms of playing well at the position in crunch time against big opponents and against a schedule, we don't know that. So what we can trust is that the track record says that Ohio State develops great quarterbacks. And Kyle McCord is in the same situation as all the tremendous quarterback play that we've seen over the last decade at Ohio State, and specifically under Ryan Day. Okay? So if Kyle McCord was at Rutgers, he could be the same exact player himself. He himself could be the same exact person and player, but we would have a different outlook. We should have a different outlook on his potential because of the lack of resources around him and the lack of talent and the lack of a track record of coaching and development. 2 years ago, CJ Stroud was in the same position. He actually had less experience. 2 years prior to that, Justin Fields actually had probably just about the same level of experience, a lot of garbage time play. And years before that, it was the same deal with Dwayne Haskins. So all I'm saying is that I cannot vouch for Kyle McCord because he has not played against a reasonable opponent. But what I do trust, or what I tend to trust, is Ohio State's track record because of excellent coaching and because of talent. Yes, the recruiting rankings do not win football games, but the recruiting rankings are a strong indicator as to who will win the football games. They're right most of the time. And they're even more right as you get to the levels of championship play. So they become even more accurate in the realm that is meaningful to compete for a championship. So we will have this conversation for the next 4 months, 5 months. We will have this conversation. And shoot, unless Kyle McCord completely bombs the first 3 weeks of the season, we'll even have this conversation into the Notre Dame game. Because even if he throws 12 touchdown passes in 3 games with no picks for 75% completion percentage, there will be people that will doubt him going to South Bend. And that's fine, because you know what? They will eventually play that game. They will eventually play the rest of the season. Ooh. It's a tough little knock into the wall there by Carnell Tate, who, according to our guys on the Buckeyes show, looks extremely good in practice, which he should. He's supposed to be. Yeah, I'm going to call up another spring game while we're here. There should be another one on tap. We'll see what we've got here. Do we have anything else available? What time is it? Okay, I'll wait 5 minutes. Get a good look at Brian Hartline there. Is that a look at the next head coach at Ohio State? Our guy Michael says the recruiting rankings are pro Ohio State. Okay, Michael, that comment makes absolutely no sense. It's absurd. It's absurd. You're completely calling into question with no evidence people's jobs and people's abilities to recruit or to evaluate recruits. So that's a moronic comment that you just made there, especially since it's not like Ohio State recruits are evaluated to be phenomenal and then they turn into nothing. Chip Tranum snuck through there, and nobody's going to catch him. He's got a touchdown, and the Scarlet gets on the board with the touchdown, first of the day. Chip showing a little bit more speed than I gave him credit for. So it is actually difficult for me to explain how ridiculous this statement is. You're talking about a school that currently has the second most NFL players on NFL rosters right now. So actually, Ohio State may be outplaying its recruiting ranking. That's just a moronic statement. And Michael, you know that. You know enough about college football. You're just saying things to say them. Felipe says Michigan has top talent all the time. I don't really understand that comment exactly. Top talent all the time. Felipe, would you give us a call here at the show? I would like you to explain that statement. Antoine's got some, as always, Antoine always has some astute football knowledge to lay on us and a number of points to make. The link is there for all of you to talk to me. So if you have any issue with anything I stated, would love to hear from Michael. Would love to hear from Felipe. Antoine would love to hear from any of you. So please join the show. I don't know who's going to win the Ohio State Notre Dame game. None of us know that. I do know some Ohio State folks that are awfully bullish on the Buckeyes for obvious reasons. There are a ton of Ohio State people that say, hey, this is going to be really interesting, and we're going to have to see the starting quarterback, probably Kyle McCord, play 3 games to see how he's doing going into South Bend. What I do know is the recent past performance of these two teams, and it's not comparable. So until I see differently, I believe that Ohio State's going to take a better team to South Bend than what Notre Dame's going to have waiting for them. Again, that could change. I wouldn't be shocked if it changed. If you told me that Notre Dame was going to beat Ohio State, if you told me that Notre Dame was going to have a better season than Ohio State, I would not be shocked in any particular way. Jermaine Matthews stepping up for a couple plays. We saw him do a pass breakup. We saw a tackle, a forceful tackle in the open field a few minutes ago. Now we saw him make another play on Dallin Hayden. 1 minute left in the first half. And usually the Ohio State halftime is rather lively with some competitions out there. Maybe they'll have some throwing challenges. I remember, what was it, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, they had Cardell Jones, they had JT Barrett, they had a few others out making some long distance throws. And of course, Cardell Jones won. All right, Kyle McCord, what you got here? 2nd and 10. Let's see if he can drive it. He's got 54 seconds and he's got 55 yards to go. Kyle McCord has tried to fit it into a tight window a few times unsuccessfully. Now, I think he's just trying to be decisive. And Sonny Styles made that play. So they did not get it done on that series, and they're going to have to punt. So I wanted to see Kyle McCord with 55 yards and 55 seconds to go put together a drive, and he failed to do so. We got Snake Spence calling for Devin Brown. Looking at the Buckeyes schedule. Indiana on the road to open the Big Ten schedule, and the schedule, Youngstown State, Western Kentucky. Then they've got a cakewalk against Notre Dame. Bye week before they go back into Big Ten play. Their crossovers are Purdue, Wisconsin, and I forget who the other one is. Purdue, Wisconsin. So now let's see what Jebbia does with the short clock and the field. Well, he's only got 11 seconds now. 2 plays. It's going to be fun to see Ohio State go into this season as an underdog to Michigan, and Michigan to be the team with the bullseye on its chest for the first time in forever, and first time that these guys have ever had to deal with it. And it will be a fun dynamic for sure. Let's see what other games we can pull up. What else do we have? I thought there were other options for us here. We do have a caller trying to get through. Hopefully they can. I thought that there would be a game that I could find at 1 o'clock Eastern. Jebbia rolls left. That's going to be the end of the half. No, he's got 5 seconds left. And I guess they're going to go for one more play. There's a sack there on the tap. Okay. They erased the last play. There we go, 26-10. Another defensive play for the Gray, and so they get some more points. So coming up, again, we're sitting right at about 1 o'clock Eastern, and we look forward to Arkansas. I should be able to get that here. And also Clemson, Arkansas and Clemson. Georgia Tech should also be available for me, and Mississippi State. I should be able to pull all those up, including Pitt. Let's see if we can. There's Boston College, which that should be almost over. There's the Arkansas spring game. And there's Clemson. Let's throw Clemson up here. Okay, so we got Clemson on the field, orange and white, no score. They just kicked off. There's 12 minutes left in the first quarter. And it looks like I don't know who the other coach is opposite Dabo, or maybe Dabo. I think he splits the two coordinators, so it's probably there we go. Yeah, Dabo's on the broadcast here. Very nice. I got to say that I miss, well, I don't miss it that much, but I kind of miss what is typically my favorite spring game, and that's the Clemson spring game, because Dabo does such a remarkable job of just talking about his team. And he coaches a little bit, but he's basically out of the game. They usually have him just on the field, and he's able to evaluate his guys, and you get the most out of this broadcast that's going on right now. But I'll stay with the Buckeyes here, of course. But let's talk some Ohio State football with Mr. David Greenshield.
How you doing there, Mark? Watching a little bit of this first half, I find it very interesting, especially considering that Ohio State's sitting a lot of key guys here, in the spring. I think fans were, going to be interested to see, what the quarterback play looked like. I think at times McCord's made a couple of good throws, but he's been off on a few too. I do like what I'm seeing out of the running back situation. Chip Tranum kind of picking up where he left off last year. I thought he did some good things in the last game of the year, But overall, I think you're right. I think this defensive line is going to be really, really good. Just kind of early observations.
My early observations, if this is all that is going on through the entirety of spring practice, so we got to keep that in mind. This is 1 out of 15, of course. But if this is consistent with everything else that we see that's going on, then Kyle McCord is not impressing me right now, and I don't want to make a big deal out of that.
Right.
And some of the throws that he's made that have been on target have been broken up by good defensive back play by Denzel Burke in particular. So I'm not going to blame him for those. He's made the right read and made a throw on time, and it's been accurate, but it's been broken up. So I'm more glad to see that Denzel Burke in particular, and I've only seen really poor coverage maybe once for sure. And that was on the other side of the ball with the other team, and that was Marvin Harrison. Just the zone just left him wide open. But yeah, Kyle McCord, other than that, I think he's missed quite a few throws.
Yeah, he was off on a down the field shot to Ballard where I thought
Yeah.
Ballard had a step and he underthrew the ball. I thought that definitely could have been a better throw. I think that they'd be well advised to maybe lean more on the run game early in the year. It'd be interesting to see with Hartline calling plays or having more of an active role in calling plays, because I still think this is Day's offense, is, how much more they commit to the running game, especially with the depth they have in the running back room. Because I think Hayden and Tranum are proving that they're more than capable. Now, to say they're better than Williams and Henderson, I'm not willing to go that far, but I think they're more than capable. But are they going to commit to the run game early on, which I think is going to be the key to kind of easing in a new starting quarterback.
Yeah. Again,
because the tendency is going to be to throw the ball because they're going to have the best receivers again. If they're going to have the best receivers, the tendency is going to be to want to throw the ball more.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma you bring up. That
Yeah.
you have to throw to win eventually. That's where you have the strength at wide receiver. You want to test your young quarterback, regardless of who that is. You want to test them. You want to be able to test them in comfortable games. So we assume that the first three are going to be comfortable. But at the same time, yeah.
I would say at Indiana could be a little tricky, Mark. I wouldn't, that'd be interesting to watch, especially with a newer quarterback and a newer offensive line. Not to say that they shouldn't out talent Indiana eventually, but particularly that first quarter, first half of that game is going to be really interesting to see.
Sure. I think we saw that in 2017 when they went to Indiana. They were in a real dogfight for 3+ quarters, and then going to Minnesota a couple of years ago, the same type deal.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I would not be surprised if it was a one-score game.
Oh, yeah.
Into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either, especially breaking in a new quarterback and a new offensive line. I think their whole key to their season, even as much as we're more as McCord, and I put this in the chat, is obviously replacing Jones and Johnson. In as much as replacing Stroud, it's replacing the two tackles, because you're essentially losing a top 15 pick, and you're losing a guy that's probably going, early second, end of the first round. So I think that's going to be the whole key, maybe even more than the quarterback position.
Now, I don't know how they have the offensive line distributed on both teams in terms of projected starters and how they've got that split up. I didn't see how they were taking that type of approach, but so from that standpoint, it's difficult. And again, the defensive line split up on the two teams too, to evaluate how well they're doing. But generally speaking, they're effectively blocking probably at least half of the running plays. They have gotten stuffed quite a bit, but they have broken some big gainers and some nice holes for the backs. But the pass protection's been really good.
Yeah, but you with a young offensive line, you usually want to lean more on your run blocking than your pass blocking, to kind of get them. Plus, I think that takes more pressure off the quarterback is also really where I was going, at large with that point. But that's the one thing, some of the fans talk about is Day creating that really good run pass balance with the offense in his play calling. Some of the fans saying in the past that he's been way too pass happy, which, I've, at times I felt that way too. And it's amazing because that first year he had the perfect balance. But he's, I think at times gotten away from that in the last couple of years.
Yeah. And then we see CJ Hicks and we see Sonny Styles make a few flash plays, and that they certainly
they got to get the field. I've said it all off season. They've got to play.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I see the one thing with Knowles is if he ran a 4-3 defense, he could play Hicks, he could play Chambers, and he could play Eichenberg, which I think would be he would definitely have his three best linebackers on the field. And and I'm still bullish on that D line, like you were saying. I mean, I think Hall, Sawyer, and JTT are going to all be solid. I love Styles at safety if he can play. Their whole key to their defense is, what we talked about. Like, can their cornerback play get any better than it was a year ago? Because we lamented that. I was the entire season. I think they did improve in the D line and the linebacker play in 22 compared to 21, but their corner play was awful the entire year last year, and was the secondary in general was obviously their ultimate downfall the last 2 games, as I've talked about many times.
Absolutely. It's all speculation, of course, until they get on the field. And I don't know at what point you join the chat, but certainly
Yeah.
Notre Dame and Michigan fans are having fun with
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State's various question marks. But I'm trying to remind people that they're not weaknesses; they are question marks.
Yeah, I mean, when you have to replace really good players, when you have to replace first round draft picks, and guys that have been starters for a couple years, that's always a question. But that's recruiting. I would say that's the one area with the former offensive line coach Stujwara, that he had some misses, especially, and I think I mentioned this to you a couple times, on some in-state guys, offensive linemen, where he didn't. His last couple years, his offensive line, especially his last year, his offensive line recruiting could have been a little bit better. And this is where maybe you see that a year or two later. You know what I mean? Especially after you lose two tackles after their junior year, because they were only going to keep Johnson for 3 years. He was off to the NFL. He was like a 3-year and done guy. And now it would have been nice if Jones would have come back. But hey, if a guy's going to be a late first round or second round pick, you got to go. I get that. But yeah,
we know that Luke Whippler was the surprise decision there that hurts. And to your earlier point, the first name that comes to mind for me when you bring up recruiting misses in state is Jackson Carman's kind of the poster child of that.
Well, but you know what, though, to be fair, though, that year they went out and they got Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, who was a really highly rated tackle and ended up being a solid player. So it wasn't like, well, they missed on an in-state guy and then they went out and got an out-of-state guy who ended up being almost as good a tackle and almost as good of a player. So, at the very least, they were able to kind of rectify that by, going somewhere else and getting another guy to come in and play for them. But, hey, I saw the list of the spring games. What's the game you're most interested in on the docket today here, Mark?
So I would want to see the 3 Georgia quarterbacks. I want to see the 3 Georgia quarterbacks. And for points that I've made numerous times that maybe Ohio State fans wouldn't be too happy about. Always my favorite spring game is listening to Dabo Swinney and Clemson, because he usually stands on the field and he only half coaches, that's even being generous. And it sounds like he may even be in the booth for this one. I've got it right in front of me now. The sound's off, but I always like to hear Dabo. Now they're set at quarterback, so and they're really set most places. They don't have a whole lot to figure out. And I'm not saying that they're going to compete for a national championship. I'm just saying, based on the conversations I have with our Clemson guy every week, they don't have a whole lot to work through compared to other teams. Dabo's on the field with a microphone right now.
Yeah, they're interesting to me, Mark. I thought last year would kind of be an interesting year after a slightly off 21. And then I always felt they were kind of, getting by most of the season. And then they did get exposed, at Notre Dame, I think. And then, obviously the bowl game didn't work out for the best. So, and now it's an interesting factor because we've kind of talked about it, how a lot of people think Florida State's starting to come up in that conference and, be that maybe finally challenger to Clemson in that conference. In fact, I think a fair amount of people are picking Florida State maybe to win that conference, if I'm not mistaken, right, Mark?
Yeah, they're going to be in that top 5 to 8 range, it appears, in the preseason rankings. Now, my question about Florida State is, generally speaking, that the good things that are working for them is that they had a number of NFL draft possibilities that all turned their way.
Yeah.
Jared Verse in particular, their edge rusher, and also Dominic Levet, their top defensive tackle, but and some wide receiver play. Although they lost Micah Pittman, and he probably is going to miss at least half the season. But the thing about Florida State is, I know that their fan base is just hungry to win and so hyped up after winning 10 games, but they played 3 ranked opponents in the middle of the season. They lost to all 3. They beat nobody of consequence. Well, they did beat LSU of consequence early in the
Right.
season, the first game, of course. And then they ripped off 6 games that probably the best team they beat was Oklahoma to finish
Mm-hmm.
the season. So I need to see more out of them. I'm not fully convinced based on their schedule last year that they were truly a 10-win team.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people got excited over Travis and Norvell, and they're
Yeah.
thinking, they're ready to maybe make a move. Also, I think that's also part because people think that Clemson isn't the Clemson,
Yeah.
of the past, that they're ripe to be, beat in that conference too. So, um, that's also a factor. I'll be interested to see the Georgia quarterback situation too, Mark. Obviously they're going to be loaded with talent, but just to see what how that quarterback situation plays out and how both of their quarterbacks looks going to be really interesting. So
Yeah, they're in one of those positions where the lesser experienced guys and the guys that have been on campus less are the more talented guys. And Carson Beck, maybe still a top recruit. Well, there's another break in the football by our guy CJ Hicks.
yeah, he's going to be a player.
So yeah, I'm interested to see the Georgia quarterback competition.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Penn State's always going to be an interesting game too.
Yeah,
See, Aller looks like maybe in some of his reps, and they'll be interesting to watch as well.
it's too bad we can't watch Devin Brown today.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I mean, I think a lot of people felt, maybe a few months back that this was maybe going to be closer than it was going to be as far as a quarterback competition. I think, for the most part, I think a lot of people felt that McCord has moved ahead. I think a lot of fans just like the fact that he had that connection with Marvin Harrison going back to high school. I think that was like a big deal too. But he's highly recruited. Um, I just really wonder how much they're going to open up the playbook. Because there wasn't a lot of down the field shots today. I would, like you've seen in some spring games. There's a few, and like I said, he underthrew the one pass to Ballard. But yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, especially with Hartline's influence now on the offense, how much they really take shots down. And because the thing about it is, like I said, go back to it. You have these receivers. You want to be able to utilize their abilities. But, understand you've got a younger quarterback and you've also got key pieces that you need to replace on the offensive line. So, I mean, to me, the run pass balance in their ability to run the ball effectively, particularly early, is going to be the big thing I'm watching offensively. So,
Yeah, it would be interesting to know, at least for me right now, what this work distribution is going to be out of the running back position, because they've got
yeah.
4 or 5 good ones, and I think we all tend to forget Evan Pryor.
Yep.
I don't know what his physical condition is right now, but he was certainly a top-notch guy coming out of high school. And the spring game, which would have been 2 years ago, would have been the Travion Henderson, Evan Pryor
Yep.
game, in which I thought that he looked really good, in particular as a threat out of the backfield.
Yeah, I remember that. He made some plays in that game. Although, like I said, it's tough to really look at the spring game. And you remember Justin Fields had a very bad spring game, as they had
Yeah.
said. And you look at the spring game and people get, and then guys have great spring games, and conversely, they're never heard from ever again.
Yeah.
Bam Childress blew up in a spring game once. He was never heard from again. So if you're going to let the spring game be the be all end all, you're probably, barking up the wrong tree. So
Bam Childress made a few plays in his career.
Yeah, but hardly a standout. Let's put it that way, Mark.
No. No.
I would say that. I like me some Bam Childress, but
Now the delayed impact of a big spring breakout was as we see Garrett Wilson there on the sideline
yeah,
was Michael Thomas,
that's
who had
right.
a huge spring game, and then that wasn't the season he broke out. So it was like a year and a half later, and that I had forgotten about him.
Does Jaden Ballard have some Devin Smith vibes to him, or is that a little too much?
Oh, yeah, I didn't really.
Maybe it's
That
just because
wasn't
he
a
wore
thought.
number 9 and went to
Yeah,
Massillon. As I'm
yeah,
going down
yeah,
that road, I guess, right?
yeah. Now
So
that was a well executed play by the offensive line.
see, that's what I'm saying. Lean on the run blocking. I mean, they've ran the ball. The run blocking looks like. I mean, they've just let some pass rushers get in there. As early in the game, guys have been able. Some free rushers have gotten in there and gotten after him. Yeah, I like what I saw from Trainum last year. He probably should have gotten more. Well, him and Hayden. I'm not going to relitigate that, but because I already did. But again, that's back to the play calling as we talk about. So
Our old buddy Devere Posey's in the booth right now.
very underrated Ohio State receiver Devere
Yeah.
Posey. Yeah, it's too bad he ran into the Terrell Pryor years and some of his inconsistencies at throwing the football down the field.
If I'm not mistaken, yeah, he did have a nice career when given the opportunity.
Yeah.
And yes, it was tough on those receivers because they didn't know where Terrell was going to be, and the ball was typically thrown like a shot put and all of that. And Terrell Pryor was a tremendous quarterback. I just saw a list of BCS era quarterbacks, 1 to 100. And I did not see Terrell Pryor on that list. I don't think he's given nearly enough credit.
Well, here's the thing, Mark. He played well in the bowl games.
Yeah, absolutely he did.
His Rose Bowl and his Sugar Bowl performances were great. Against Oregon and Arkansas, and that was at an interesting time for Tressel because remember Tressel had that bugaboo, that 3 straight bowl game losses, and people were wondering could he win the big non-conference games.
Yeah,
and he came. That Oregon win was a big win. In that Rose Bowl, and then they finally broke the SEC jinx against Arkansas.
Yeah,
who knew that was going to be the last game for? Yeah,
what might have been?
Yeah, what's interesting with Pryor is the 2 schools that Pryor is coming down to in a recruiting battle, right?
In addition to Ohio State, wasn't it Penn State and wasn't Penn State and Michigan, was it?
Well, yeah. I mean, Rich Rod was after him at the time.
Yeah. Okay.
See, that's what would have been interesting is how much would Rich Rod's career have been different if Rich Rod would have, if he would have gone there. Because what did they have? They had Darnell was it Robinson at the time, right?
Yeah,
Shoelace.
Well, Bernard Robinson, I don't know at what point. I don't think he really played until like 2010. Rich Rod's 3 seasons were 08, 9, and 10, and he had the likes of Scott Sheridan and Tate Forcier, quarterback that didn't quite fit. They weren't necessarily, Pat White level quarterback play that Rich Rod was used to.
Yes. Yeah, that was interesting. Although Rich Rod, coveted at the time, maybe he should have taken that Alabama job. They were after him. Remember that? Yeah, Alabama.
Of course they were. Yeah. He had a great run at West Virginia.
Yeah, the Pat White, Steve Slayton teams. Remember they beat Georgia in that Sugar Bowl, and and then housed Sam Brad. Although he didn't coach the Sam Bradford game against Oklahoma in that Orange Bowl. So
yeah. We were just talking here in the last couple of nights. West Virginia was brought up, and I don't know that they're given enough credit for their program history.
No, yeah, they had people. Yeah, that's some really good teams. I remember the Don Nehlen era.
Yeah, they're roughly in the top 15 all time in wins. I think that's about where they are.
I wouldn't be shocked by that. Well, I'm gonna get back to the game, Mark. I gotta cut the grass today too. So
yeah, I actually have given that some thought too, whether that's going to be today, tomorrow, or Monday. But it's going to be here soon.
Got a nice day in Ohio, so I'll let you enjoy it and get back to it. Good coverage today, my friend.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Have a good
Yep.
day.
Take care now.
Our guy, David Greenshield, checking out the Buckeyes. Always appreciate David having the level-headed perspective. He's not totally starry-eyed about everything, that everything's fine and everything's going to be great, nor is he Mr. Pessimism. It's a balanced view from David. So, yes, in the booth, we've got a national champion in Joshua Perry. We have Devere Posey, Buckeye, yes, during the Terrell Pryor days, and his last season was 2011. He caught a long touchdown pass against Michigan from Braxton Miller in that 2011 game. The last game that Michigan won. Oh, yeah, they won these last 2 years. That's right. Oh, Archie Griffin. Look at this. Oh, man. Nobody's catching Archie. None of these guys are going to catch him. Four, five. Double Heisman Trophy. Brano 2 times. I have not seen Evan Pryor. And I made the comment to David on the last call. I don't know where we stand on Evan Pryor. What is going on with Evan Pryor? So lock in on our next Buckeyes live show on Wednesday, because I will be asking about Evan Pryor if nobody tells us in the meantime. That was a clean exchange from McCord to Archie. Archie's got to be what? Let's see. If his last season was 75, he would have been 22. So we're looking at what? He's 68, 69. Did they count that touchdown? Let's see what you guys are talking about here. LFG, how is Ohio State's run blocking looking today? It's actually looking really good. Got stuffed a little bit early. But since then, since the first drive or two, and again, I don't know what the mix is in terms of first and second teamers on the two teams. Sonny Styles, big key for the Buckeyes defense this year. Yes, yes, yes. All right, Archie getting some airtime on the sideline. I think I've shared the story. I will not share it right now. Yeah, one of my bigger thrills in broadcasting was having Archie Griffin, not just interview Archie Griffin, but he sat in during an entire sportscast. That was a lot of fun. Buckeye Bob is showing up. Buckeye Bob, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here, Buckeye Bob. Unless there's more than one Buckeye Bob, but I believe this is the Buckeye Bob because he hosted our post game here at the Voice of College Football, OSU. And while we've got a break in the action, no, we don't. They're back on the field going to it here. So we've got a pass up the middle, and that must be Trebia again. I think we're down to seeing two quarterbacks play, right? With David Brown and Thurman's gotten some play here at the tight end position. So basically, just each quarterback is playing through the entire game, it appears, at least at this point. Two-time Heisman Trophy winner. And we will not dig up the conversation as to whether he earned the second one. All right. I want to remind everyone that we've got YouTube memberships here at the Voice of College Football. So you can sign up for those. Just go to the front page of the channel right here. It might be exactly where you're watching us right now. And we've got YouTube memberships, and you can check out exactly how that benefits you. You obviously help grow the channel and support us here at the Voice of College Football, but it also can benefit you as well. So YouTube memberships. And also look into how a sponsorship will help you and your business. And even if you don't have a business, you can look into sponsoring the Voice of College Football, your show of choice, your content of choice. So hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail if you're interested in sponsoring us. 34-17, 3 minutes left in the third quarter, second down, and Jebbia and the Scarlet team's on the move, and that was way to the outside. The Clemson spring game is about done with the first quarter, and I can't say that I've really picked up much on this Clemson spring game, but we will circle back on the Clemson spring game and on a number of these spring games throughout the day. Looking at Clemson's too deep on defense, and there's a lot of experience coming back. Okay, they're telling us that there are 75,122 people there. Now, that was a good throw, but just didn't come down with it. I think it was there. There's a little DeVere Posey. He had a nice career, 136 catches, 18 touchdowns. Jason, letting us know that I bought 5 gifted memberships last night and only 3 get used. Do I lose the other 2? How does that work? Oh my goodness. I will have to look into that. I don't know anything about that. I might get my buddy Joey on that because he may know. And even if he doesn't know, he would be the one to figure that out before I did. But thank you so much for that. I didn't even know that that was necessarily a thing. Well, I did know that it was a thing. I just didn't know how anyone was getting that done. So, Jason, thank you so much for that. And let me get to Joey on that one. And I'm going to have to text him right now, or else I'm going to forget. But thanks, Jason. I'll get you a answer on that. And I know that if I would have waited to let that go, so I apologize to everybody for texting while I'm on here. But I got that communicated to Joey, and we'll figure that out. Cade Klubnik has been sacked a couple times, but he's 9 for 11. My thought is to possibly, after this game, to enjoy the nice weather, and then probably by this evening, just about all these spring games are going to be online. They're going to be on YouTube somewhere, and to review them and just to start cranking out videos. Paxton asking if I'm going to watch Texas. Texas is on the Longhorn Network, so I can't watch it. I don't believe, since I don't get that network on cable. I'm sure that it's somebody's showing it, probably on YouTube. Somebody's pirating that. In terms of my options right now, there's a lot of good options here. Pitt, Clemson, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Georgia Tech. So, yeah, I'm really thinking that I should binge on spring games both tonight and tomorrow. Not necessarily to review the spring games or to give you some kind of recap like it's a game. That's just dumb. I'm not going to give you instant analysis on a spring game, but it's just going to give me a lot more knowledge to go on and to be able to kind of give you a way too early kind of projection toward August camp kind of deal. You know, as much as Terrell Pryor didn't look the part at quarterback, he actually was a starting quarterback at times in the NFL, with the Raiders in particular. But then he found his home as a wide receiver. Brant, thank you for the question. Mark, what are your thoughts on teams scrimmaging each other for spring games? Well, my initial thought is I find it curious that this is being proposed and talked about at a time in which we're expanding the playoff and there's concern about too many games and too many plays and too many reps and too much exposure to injury. So now we're going to play spring games that are actual games, competitive games. if you notice, a lot of the rules changes that were proposed this winter were directed at limiting plays. Why would we want to limit plays? Injuries. We all want more football, so we don't want to limit plays for any other reason except for to limit the exposure to injury. Well, then why would we be playing football games in the spring? So I'm not dead set against it, but it just doesn't seem to be consistent with everything else that's being pushed to prevent injuries. Now, I would also say that the intriguing part of it would be you're going to obviously have big brands playing lesser schools. You're not going to have Kansas State and Minnesota playing a spring game. You're going to have Kansas State playing some, they're going to be playing some low-level group of 5 or an FCS school. So that's going to be the nature of this is going to be big brand against FCS or low-level group of 5. Well, the low-level group of 5 may take it more seriously, and I would be intrigued to see how some of these programs and some of these coaches are going to take this, because if you lose a spring game, if you're now Ryan Day's fine, Jim Harbaugh's fine, Dabo Swinney's fine, Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, those guys, Lincoln Riley, they're secure in their jobs. But let's take some coaches at some big programs that are not secure. Mike Norvell a year ago. Mario Cristobal now. Jimbo Fisher possibly now. Neil Brown, West Virginia now. And we could go to a few other ones. Check out my hot seat video. What if you lose a spring game? It shouldn't matter. Nobody should care. Nobody should raise any questions. However, nice little touchdown pass there. That was Carnell Tate, who's had a big spring. I don't know who was covering him, but Tate with the touchdown and a well-thrown ball by Kyle McCord. Okay, that was nice. And so back to the question, what happens when a coach like Brian Harsin, I know he's no longer at Auburn, but a coach that is at a big program who's in an unstable, insecure, vulnerable position gets challenged in a spring game. Now that's up to him to determine whether I'm going by my game plan. We don't care if we lose this game, or I know that our fan base is obnoxious and they're annoying and I'm on the hot seat and I'm feeling the heat and we can't lose. That's what would intrigue me about that situation, would be the Citadel beating Clemson. Again, bad example there because Dabo's fine. But you get me on that one. Super chat coming in from Jason. Thank you so much for that. Jason asks, Mark, I know it's only a spring game, but are you concerned with McCord's play so far? I don't know if concerned is the right word. I think that's a bit strong. Let's see what he does here. Oh, they're showing a highlight reel. Let me see. This is the last touchdown throw, so I missed it. I wanted to review his throws again. Am I concerned? Concern is a little bit strong, but it's not good. It's not a good day. He just threw his best pass, and that was a very simple read. There wasn't even a read involved. It was just, I'm going to Tate. He's open. He's got a step or two. He had to throw a nice ball, but it wasn't a super, super tight coverage situation. And other than that, yeah, he's not had a great day. Not had a great day. If Kyle McCord takes this game and wins the starting job and takes this performance to the field all season, then Ohio State does go 9-3. And Jason, you still didn't speak too soon because, yeah, he did throw one good ball there. And he's 17 of 32. So he's throwing some other decent throws, but most of them are check downs, the ones he's completed. So we've only got 8 minutes left in the game right now. And yes, Jason, you as a Michigan fan, of course, wanting Kyle McCord to fail, jinxed it. Oh, nice little catch out there. Look at that. It's our guy Brecht, number 34. Watch this. Kai Stokes is another guy that to look out for in the secondary. He flashed last year at the spring game. Nice throw here by Cade Klubnik to Briningstool. Really good throw. Must be a running clock except for change of possession. Yeah, David, it would have been mighty interesting to see Brown play just to make that direct comparison. So we're going to wrap it up here at the Voice of College Football. We still have 7 minutes left in the game. We're still going to take your comments and questions, and we're going to still take any of your calls if you're around. And I'm going to take in as much as I possibly can today. We're going to enjoy the day. But so I'm going to try to get a feel for how much I should watch live versus how much that I can take in later and produce some videos for all of you. Check out the video that we just released a couple hours ago on TV ratings prime time. And if you have any more requests, let me know. Those need to be successful for us to continue the series. And we're right about at that time when we're going to kick into our post-spring mode, our post-spring content, power rankings, position breakdowns, player ratings and rankings, all of that. There's a drop by Carnell Tate. Five and a half minutes and counting. 37-24. Gray. Guess the loser of the game has to do a little bit more conditioning. And that goes for the coaches too. Dave says he thinks Ohio State will have a good secondary this year. They did not last year, but they do pick up the big pickup from Ole Miss, the corner, Davis Igbinosun is, I believe, how you pronounce his last name. Igbinosun, Davis Igbinosun from Ole Miss. I haven't seen anything out of him today. Nothing has stood out to me that I caught. And then Jahad Carter, the safety out of Syracuse. Running out the clock, 40-24. Checking out Clemson spring game. Cade Klubnik down the field, doing what he does best. That's scramble around, elude guys, and now he's taken off. And he's down at the 2, 4th and goal. All right, folks, any more calls? We have left the link one more time there in the chat. Under 3 minutes. We will not see any more from Kyle McCord. Apparently, I guess we could if they don't convert here. Oh, man. But they did convert. Oh, my goodness. Noah Rogers. We've heard good things about Noah Rogers. Highly recruited wide receiver, Noah Rogers. And he shook the defenders after he made a nice open field catch. So it was a well-thrown ball, but not perfect. So he had to gather this one in. Yeah, it was pretty perfect, but still a nice catch. And one of the defenders made a good play to try to get that ball out, and it popped up in the air. So you got a little spurt from the Scarlet here at the end of the game, and we'll see a little bit more from Kyle McCord. So, John, Noah Rogers is just another young, talented wide receiver at Ohio State. He was the number one rated player in the state of North Carolina, the 8th rated player at wide receiver in the country, and a top 50 player in the country. Yeah, this is a guy that doesn't get a whole lot of outside of Ohio State circles much play, and he's a top 50 player in the country. Michael will bring up the awful tackling. And you're right. Brecht with the handoff carry, and Brecht is how deep on the running back depth chart? 6 deep. He's got to be the 6th stringer, right? Henderson, Williams, Trainum, Hayden, Pryor. I think he's 6th. All right, let's see Kyle McCord throw it again. Got 90 seconds left. Let's see him throw 3 more passes. Brandon Innes, good call by LFG. Of course, Brandon Innes, another phenomenal recruit coming in from Florida. A little rollout to Thurman. Jelani Thurman, what was his recruiting ranking coming out? Jelani Thurman, the tight end, 3rd rated tight end in the country, 5th rated player in Georgia, number 104. Yeah, he's a big dude. He's got to tuck his shirt in, but he's a big dude. Kyle McCord. Oh, I want to see something down the field. Although that was a nice throw to the outside, it was right where it had to be with tight coverage. So Kyle McCord rallying a little bit late. I'm not just talking about this drive, but he threw the ball much better in the second half than he did the first half. David still says, pound the rock. Pound the rock. As maybe we get 2 more plays out of this. The way they're approaching it. It looks like one play. And Brecht saying, hey, I'm not going to get carries during the season. My stat sheet for the spring game is going to be stellar. And now we're at 7 seconds. Are we going to go with one more play here? It appears so. Okay, Kyle, one more throw. Let's do it. I want to see a throw downfield. There it is. Tried to throw for the touchdown to end the game, even with a 9-point deficit, so they couldn't catch up there. But nice break by the defender on the ball. And I think Kyle McCord was basically saying, that wasn't the best decision to make if this was real. But you know what? Throw the post. There's double coverage there. Just throw it. It's the last play of the game. It's a spring game. We're down by 9. Just throw it. There's Jim Knowles, the most talked about man in Columbus, Jim Knowles. Folks, we appreciate you being here, the voice of college football. And again, my approach to the rest of these spring games is I'm going to take in as much action as possible. I'm going to take as many notes as possible because it's not about the spring games themselves. It's about the storylines, and it's about what indications we get during the spring games about going into the summer and into fall camp. So we'll be here, the voice of college football. I've got requests out to all of our various contributors on the various teams to see if we can pull them in for a conversation today as well. Thank you so much for everyone's contributions today. Thank you in particular to Jason, a YouTube member, and thank you so much for the contribution today, Jason, and also for the gifted memberships, and I will get you back word on that. All right, folks, appreciate you being here one more time. And again, this is not the end of our spring day coverage for this Saturday, the 15th. We will continue on throughout the day. Maybe I'll be back live, but certainly there's going to be content all over the place, so we'll see you then.